Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of Call Me by Your Game Co-op. If you're, wondering, wow, that doesn't sound like Connor McCabe, it's because it's not. It's me, Jeremy Schmidt, producer of Call Me by Your Game. Every now and then, Connor McCabe will allow me to do one of these. Usually it's a Souls game because he doesn't want to play those. And I go, please, Connor, let me do a Souls game. And he's let me do Bloodborne and Dark Souls. And now we're on the DLC for Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. And I'm so excited to get this opportunity to do to go full out on this thing. Because so far in podcast, I've only done basically an Elden Ring first impressions episode with Alec, like not that long ago. But I'm super excited. Let me introduce who's here with me today. We have, of course, Alec Robbins returning. Hello, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Crime Hot, author of Crime Hot. We got Mr. Boop. We got High on Life. We got all kinds of stuff coming out of this guy. Credits galore.
That's true. Those are all correct and accurate.
Correct.
Thank you for listing them in that order too. I like that you started with the most pornographic and then went down to the most well-known.
I was trying to start with the most relevant. Crime Hot seems like the most relevant.
It is.
Right?
It is. Because I have a new book coming out. Yes, thank you. I'll plug that right now at the top.
Yeah, okay.
I think do it. I think that's a good. I think as somebody who does this, I think plugs should be at the top.
It should be at the top. Yeah.
I think you should be plugging stuff at the top. This is good.
Yeah.
I'm only plugging it because you've teed me up so well. Whether or not I think it's a good idea to plug something at the top of the podcast is irrelevant.
Seasoned professional on the podcast telling us it's a good idea to plug up top, baby.
I haven't heard it. I think it's a thing we should start doing. I think this is good.
Yeah, because people turn it off when they hear when they think a plug is about to start. They go, "Oh God, right, Jesus!" and they turn it off real quick. Yeah,
I only listen to podcasts so that I can eventually hear what someone on it was working on or is currently gonna. Usually they do it at the end, and that's a trick to keep me listening. If you do it at the top, I think you're gonna assume people are gonna stop listening. But the real answer is they will respect you so much for giving them what they want right away that they're like, you know what, I'll stay.
Yeah. Give them the goods right away. We have, of course, one of the co-hosts of the Get Played podcast, improviser extraordinaire, Matt.
Was Alec done with the plug?
I think so.
Yeah,
were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Book called Crime Hot out soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry if I cut off the plug. I didn't know. Is it like a volume? Volume what? What volume are you on?
I am. We should stop talking about the plug. I feel guilty now. I feel like we've spent so much time.
We got Matt Apodaca on the show. Matt, hello.
What's up?
What up, baby?
I'm bringing it back.
Yeah. I did a podcast before this, and I did start the show by doing a "What's up." Just want to say.
It's in the air. I'm gonna also cop to having said "What's up" a lot lately.
Yeah. Oh,
it's back.
This is actually real too. I did another thing on the show. I said I asked people what they were playing, but then I did the Resident Evil 4 merchant voice. I said, "What are you playing?" And then someone said, "Are you trying to do like the Get Played joke?"
Yeah. I'll see you in court.
Do you guys do that on the show? I didn't. I was like,
only but once a week.
That was like, dang, I got to tell Matt that I did this. So I'm telling you now. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Happy to chat.
Now, Matt, I actually didn't know you were a huge Souls guy or Elden Ring. Is it just Elden Ring? Or are you into the Souls games or?
I want to be so into the entire genre because these games fascinate me. Elden Ring did skyrocket to top 10 status for me.
Mm-hmm.
When it came out, I just hadn't really played one before. I had played a little bit of the Demon Souls remake because I got it when I got my PS5. And that was one of the first games I was playing on Twitch, just letting people watch me die continuously and scream because I was legitimately afraid of it.
It's scary.
But I would like to go back to Demon Souls because Elden Ring was such a positive experience. But I feel and I don't know if Alec, you would agree with this, because I know that you're super into these. If Elden Ring is quote easier than the other ones, I feel I hear people saying that Elden Ring is kind of baby mode.
I don't think it's not. baby mode, but it
Yeah.
gives you a lot of options, I think,
Okay.
is where it really spreads its wings as like an accessible entry. Because in most of the other ones, even though they're like, Dark Souls, you could probably be facing 2 or 3 different bosses at once.
Hmm.
You kind of hit dead ends after you've exhausted a lot of various. So like you have to beat a hard boss. You have to get good enough to beat it. Elden Ring, you can find a hard boss and then get distracted for literally 100 hours doing something else.
Yeah.
And then go back to the boss and just clean up like you forgot it was even a challenge.
I tried Sekiro as soon as I finished the DLC was like, I think I need to just take a break from slamming my head against the wall.
Punishing games.
The first one I beat.
Okay, wow.
But it was psychological. I think I've said this many times on here, so I'll be very quick, I think. But I have to say it again because we're talking about it. It's the only one where you can't make a build. And if you can make a build in Dark Souls and you don't understand the game yet, or like Bloodborne, like the first time I played Bloodborne, I was second guessing every time I was at a boss. I'm like, I fucked up my build. I'm leveling up the wrong things. That's why I'm losing. Whereas in Sekiro, I was like, well, there's nothing else I can do.
This is
I literally just have to learn how to play and beat the boss. It gave me the confidence to like push through on all those bosses. So I beat that one first because of that, and then I went and played all the others.
Got it. Yeah, I after I beat Elden Ring, the base game, I bought the Dark Souls trilogy, physical copies of them, and was like, I'm gonna do this. And I think I played like 10 hours of Dark Souls 1 and was like, I think I'm good here. I think
wow. You bounced off because it was too hard, or you just didn't?
It was just too hard. I think something else had come out like around the time I was playing it then too. But it was just like, sometimes I'm just trying to relax and not be too challenged. I would rather play like a Kirby in the Forgotten Land or whatever, and just like and love that.
Karmic opposite of Dark Souls.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is I love this like sort of preliminary getting into the bathwater of the Souls games and just sort of like discussing like kind of like, these are hard games if people aren't familiar. Say you're on patreon.com/Super NPC Radio right now and you're listening to this episode and you're not familiar. These are tough games. Also, thanks for subscribing. Heck, I mean, you're keeping the lights on for us, honestly. Also, if you've been listening to Connor McCabe's Call Me By Your Game co-op series this year, he's been doing sequels like all year. So sequels to great or legendary games. So this definitely, I think, counts in that regard, as this very much does feel like a sequel to Elden Ring.
This is Dark Souls 4.
Yeah.
and Elden Ring 2.
And Elden Ring 2, yeah. It's a huge game. I think I clocked 40 hours playing it. Did you guys remember how much time?
Oh, I wish I checked. It was up there though, probably like 50-ish, I think. Yeah.
It's hard to know for sure because I started a new game plus right before that and just went straight into that. But the new game plus was probably 100 hours shorter than my first playthrough, because it was like a revenge tour. I was just going through and being like, Margit is just like pull Margit in half. And like,
no, for real, it's like the second time I had a file set up ready for the DLC, but in the months coming up, I was like, I want to play it again anyway. So I started a new file. I leveled beyond what my original file was and beat the entire game and cleared out basically everything you could do in maybe a sixth of the amount of time I first played.
Yes, because also like I hadn't played it since beating it, and I think I probably played. I mean, I didn't beat it quickly when it came out. I probably was playing that game for months until I finally took it down. So I hadn't touched it since then, and I just knew that I wasn't going to be good at it again if I just jumped straight into it, because I just didn't remember how to play. So I thought it would be fun to just be extremely over leveled and super powerful and just go through all the bosses that I needed to get to the DLC. But it turns out that's quite a few. They're like, you need to beat these two, but it's not the first two. It's like, there's like 10 on the way there. I guess
crazy. It's like, it's at least the first. It's at least like the first three, because you got to beat Radon, right? So it's like Margit,
you have to beat Radon and
Godric,
Mohg,
Renala,
You don't have to beat Renala, do you? Because
You don't?
technically, I think you can get to Radahn.
You can.
Yeah, I feel like you can bypass Morgott, which makes me think you can also just get straight to Radahn. And I think you could just do Radahn. I think you could just
go Radahn but then Moog.
Moog you can get to through two ways. Either one is going all the way to the top of the map and getting the Erdtree thing, and the other way I think is via doing some like bloody finger
the blood finger thing.
Yeah. You have to.
So
get
if you wanted to bypass
cloth.
it, you could go that way. You have to kill like one of those guys, one of those bloody finger guys.
I did that to get to Moog on that save because it was just, and then also. He was still really hard. He's like so
most
hard.
tough. Yeah,
I really struggled with him in the base game, like the blood one. I just absolutely destroyed the subterranean one, but the blood one I struggled.
The blood one's
hard.
stronger.
Wait,
one of my favorite bosses in the game actually is still Moog.
It's a great boss fight. It's a super fun one. Yeah.
I love his design and I love his area. I mean, it's just like cool. It's just like cool city down there in the blood zone. But
that's all doing a lot of work for me. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt. Did you play the DLC on New Game Plus?
Yes. Which then I learned is harder.
Yep.
To do. So I was having a very hard time doing it.
I'm so curious to like. I guess it'd be hard. I guess you wouldn't know by comparison how much easier the other one was. But
yeah,
I wonder if it. And at this point, have you finished?
I did beat it. Yeah.
Wow.
Did you beat the final boss?
Yes, it was very
master
hard
stuff.
I did do it. I will say I did do it with help of summons, but I will say
with my eyes blindfolded.
Yeah, I did it with the Guitar Hero controller. I did it with summon to help, but I will also say we barely did it. Like we were getting our asses kicked.
That's so fun. I mean, I guess I do know people playing it. It never dawns on me to like call a buddy. I mean, I'm always using my freaking mimic tier on it every time, but it never dawns on me like, hey, call a buddy. They're probably struggling too. It could be fun to go in there together. I'm sure this game is really fun co-op, but I've never really done that.
It is super fun co-op, and it's super fun. Something that happened to me was my friend and co-host Heather Ann Campbell accidentally invaded my game, and I was legitimately terrified. I was like, "Oh no!"
It's like accidentally breaking into your friend's house.
Like, I guess I have to kill my
waving
friend.
a gun, like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry, I'm here. You have to kill me."
It felt like that. It was so. It was nuts. It was so funny.
Oh, that's awesome. And then Alec, just a quick follow up because to the first impressions episode we did at that moment, which I think was over a month ago when we recorded that. It was around the time the game released. You had finished the DLC.
Oh, and I already finished. Yeah.
Yeah, you had beat it in 1 week, which I thought was now having beaten it, a Herculean feat.
I remember being really frustrated we couldn't talk about a lot of stuff because of that. Yeah.
I had scratched the surface barely.
I think I beat it in a week, but I would say half of that week was me bashing my head against the wall at the final boss.
Interesting.
I did take days off of work for this, but I worked at a game studio, and I think most of us did.
Yeah.
And I also ran into a really funny problem with the final boss, which is I was really over leveled at the start of the DLC. So I was like, I don't need armor. I'm gonna make my character look cool. He was like this shirtless guy with 2 swords, you know? So I didn't have any armor on for this entire run, and my brain forgot about armor because I was like, I like the way my character looks. Yeah. I'm not interested in changing anything. And I was for like 3 or 4 days straight losing nonstop to the final boss. And then something clicked in my brain like, you should put on some armor, Alec. You should put on some armor.
Put a shirt on, damn you.
I beat him within like 5 tries after putting armor.
That is so, it's interesting you say that because I've never like done a side-by-side test, but I always was suspicious of how much armor really mattered. Like how much it edges you into, being stronger.
The heavy armor matters a lot. That one really did. But like the normal armor, I think there's not much variance, but the difference between not having armor on
Yeah.
and wearing any armor is bigger than I expected.
Oh man, yeah, that is wild. So yeah, just I guess a little bit about this game. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, I mean, I joked at the top, but hopefully you've played it. It is definitely, I think, worth saying that we're gonna talk very freely and openly about the game. We're gonna spoil anything that can be spoiled about it. If you don't care about that, fair enough. But there is some really cool surprises in this game. There's some twists and turns, and they're not always the type of surprises I think you might expect going into a game, which is kind of hard to, that maybe that doesn't make sense, but like they were fun. And as somebody who's played a lot of games, like was definitely not expecting some of the cooler stuff in this DLC, and not even in terms of like lore, like who is who and who you're going to see and find, but like, whole areas of the map are like really cool, fun surprises that it was an absolute treat to get to. So I would encourage you, if you want to play this, go play it first, and then come back and like listen to us talk about it. Because
we finish it in 2 years. It's great.
Yeah.
You can do it in a week. It's possible.
You can do it in a week or 2 years. It's to taste. It's to taste. It took me about a month, and I really took my time with it. And part of what helped me really just get in there and dig in and like really have a nice lengthy time with it is, there's not like on the horizon much coming out this year that I'm like super interested in. And at the time, there wasn't like a ton of new releases, like that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth game. I like that, and I liked this, and there's definitely indie stuff abound, but it's not like I feel like last year it was just like hit. Yeah, and this year it's been a little
layoffs or the games.
Oh god, both. It's bummer, man.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's horrible out there.
We should be talking about it, so don't get mad at me. But also, sorry.
So I really had I feel like I had an extra good time with this, where I really soaked it in. Okay, so a little bit about this DLC. Yeah, so you're going to there really is, in order to beat this thing, there's really only a couple of things required of you. I think kind of like the base game. I think it's like 3 bosses, and then you can do the end dungeon. Mm-hmm. But there's so much more going on in this that is optional. And I think in true FromSoft fashion, that's fucking cool. So I guess let's just like open it up. Like, let's just I guess we can just start talking about our favorite shit in the game. Like starting off, like, can we talk it's kind of a weird place to start, but can we talk about the Abyssal Woods?
Oh my god. That is a weird place to start. As an anomalous part of the game. I think that's probably I'm actually gonna come in with some criticism here, because I think that's maybe the one section that I think, as cool as it is, also really highlights a few of the major criticisms I've seen people give this DLC, which is it's empty. Mm-hmm. It is empty for a very good reason, which is there's different types of gameplay. You're not supposed to be able to use the horse. You have to do stealth shit, and it's very scary, which I loved. And I love the dungeon at the end of it. But I also was kind of shocked at how big it was with almost nothing in it. There's like 3 sites of grace, and you find one and you're like, oh, there must be something near here. And it's like, no, this is just an optional extra checkpoint if you want it.
Yeah. Well, let's quickly explain like what this area is. So this is, I think this is, and I don't know, maybe Alec, because I think you've played a lot of these games too. Maybe correct me if I'm misremembering, but this feels like a sort of unique flavor of FromSoft variety flavor, like that I haven't seen before, where essentially, you make your way through. There's sections of the map that I think for a lot of the DLC, you're just very curious about, because you're not sure how to get there, or if you're ever going to get there, or if it's
one of the last
traversable.
Places I found. This was so hard to figure out on the map.
And so you make your way through. I think it's like a cave, or it's like a some sort of dungeon or something. You fight a boss at the
rivers,
end.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, and you literally get there through catacombs, which is another series first. I think it's the only time like you actually progress through the map via a little side dungeon.
It's very interesting to get to the end of a catacomb in this game, and it's not just a little warp back, but there was a door at the end, which is immediately suspect.
Like a unique boss arena, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that was great.
So it's
There's
one
like a cave
boss
like that too with the dragons.
Oh yeah. But so there's a boss, and then you open the door basically to another boss, I think, right? And it's just like, and it's one of these horn scent, protectors or mages or whatever. You beat that guy, and essentially you're transported into a stealth survival horror game for like, I was in there for like 4 or 5 hours, just like creeping around in the bushes so I didn't get seen by these freaks with eyeballs all over their head who basically one-shot you. They come over and they will kill you instantly if they touch you, and you can't ride your horse.
Like
your horse
teleport to you too.
Yeah. Your horse is too afraid to be in there. So, I can definitely understand why people would have not liked this section of the game. Like it is, it can be a beatdown if you're not, But I loved it. I thought.
But again, I think I liked it too, and I think they earn it being such a controversial bit of gameplay, like having a stealth portion and an empty map.
Mm-hmm.
They earn it by hiding it so well. It's like really not mandatory. You have to really go digging, and it's a whole section of the map that they're just like, hey, we put this in here, and there's a dungeon at the end and a special boss. So like that's a little gift.
And a gift it was, because man, when I come up across on that house or that mansion at the end of that castle, I was ready. I was like, man, this is going to be so sick. I cannot wait to get in there and poke around. And it didn't disappoint. Like, Matt, do you remember this section of the map? Do you know what we're talking about here? The Abyssal Woods?
I do remember having a hard time and being scared. Describing this area in particular as a survival horror area is, for me, that is the entire game. Because I just trying to survive, and I am constantly afraid. But yeah, this was I liked this area. I think something about the lands between, like, obviously there's like so much in the main map. There's so much going on, and it's huge. I can handle I think an empty-ish area, like, because at the very least, because the things that are in there, like you said, can one shot you. So as long as there's not that much going on, I can focus on those guys.
Yeah, and I think it did have that. I think it takes obviously a second to adjust in there, because you're not really sure how you're supposed to engage with anything. You're kind of like, I know for me, a lot of that map, I was walking it, just very slowly walking it and kind of poking around the edges. But I do know, I did at one point kind of figure out this isn't for exploring. Like, this is for staying on the main road.
I felt the same way. I understood I felt their cues. I'm like, there's not really going to be a lot if I go off road.
Yeah. And I think
my partner played it, and they painstakingly explored every corner of it because they love exploring, and they felt very disappointed by it, which I get.
Yeah. And I can see how that could be a criticism of the map in general, because the lands between map, it doesn't operate that way. It rewards you for poking around all the edges of it. But this map is a little bit empty, sure, but lacking in collectibles and things that you'll find. Or sometimes you'll go through I feel like maybe traverse a hard area, and there's the thing you get at the end is not that cool. Stuff like that.
I'm a bad judge of what's cool and what's not, when I find it, because I really stuck to, for better or for worse, I stuck to my build until I decided that an intelligence build wasn't really serving me in the DLC.
I've heard this actually.
I had that big, I can't remember what it's called, like Azure's Comet or something. I had that big blue beam, because I love beams. Beams are my number one thing. I love a good beam.
I like a good gym beam. You know what I'm saying, guys?
Like a triple beam pizza.
Okay.
I like that.
But we don't like the gym beam, Jeremy. That's just
all right. Okay, let me mark that down. Don't like the gym beam. Okay. but yeah,
take
I've heard
it.
I've heard the intelligence build were tough in the DLC. Like there, a lot of bosses weren't weak to that.
Yeah, and I was just like, I don't know, like having like gone through it again, I was like, I think I have the confidence now to. I mean, I'll say I didn't beat the entire game on New Game Plus again. I like stopped at where I needed to go for the DLC and then went straight into the DLC. And it was kind of just burnt out and was like, I don't think I'm going to finish this again right now. But having had my confidence back and knowing how the game works and that the game was like encouraging me to try new stuff in the DLC, I respect and did a full I went strength faith in the DLC and like was rocking with talismans and like swords, like a bunch of different types of swords, and was just having a blast doing that.
Yeah, I never respect. I was a faith dex build from the jump of Elden Ring, and I never had respect. And I will say, we're kind of all over the place, but like, and this is the slightest criticism, I suppose, but I actually didn't find anything in the DLC weapon or armor wise, maybe a couple of armor things that I preferred to what I got in the base game. I actually kept my blasphemous blade from the jump through the end.
Yeah. I was
Either
rocking
of you
with
try the dry leaf, the fists.
I tried a lot of stuff, and I did try the dry leaf stuff, and I like the footwork too. That combo was really fun. Matt, did you try that? The karate?
I didn't try it because I was like, I was pretty attached to my Sword of Night and Flame. The Sword of Night and Flame is really good. And I had enough intelligence to still use that, so I still got to keep my beam, which was great. But I had like other like abilities with my strength faith. I have a character pitch for you, Jeremy, because you said that you hadn't respect.
Mm-hmm.
I think here's a character. You can just do this on the show.
I already know what it is.
What?
It's called, his name's Erdtree Dangerfield.
Yep. Saw that coming.
And you can say that you get no respect.
Oh, man. And I'm pissed. I didn't know what you were going to say.
It's yours if you want it. I can't do anything with it, but it's yours.
I can't get no respect. All decks.
Yeah. Do you guys know about this? There was this, I don't know if it was like a widespread TikTok trend, but it reached my household where the TikTok video is this woman and people are feeding her Elden Ring specifics in the comments, and she's saying them to her boyfriend, and he's like, how the fuck do you know that?
Yeah, I've seen that.
You know what?
Yeah.
I did see this. Yeah. I was prepared to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I know the video.
It came across my fiance's Instagram reels a month later, because that's where she sees a lot of these things.
Oh yeah, that's how long it takes to get the TikTok. Yeah.
And she just comes home one day and she hits me with an Erdtree's blessing. And it was extremely funny, but I was like, I've seen this, and she wouldn't admit that it was from a video. No, I just know that.
Yeah, there's gonna a huge fight break up over it. That's
let her have the bit. You can't spoil.
I should have let her have it. Yeah, her new satisfaction was pretending that she hadn't seen that, and
that's
making
so
me crazy.
Funny.
I was like, I'm showing you this.
You need to let her gaslight you. You need to allow that.
Yeah, I needed to let her gaslight me. Yeah, that's true.
Oh man, I think I wanted the curved great swords to work out better for me, or like what are the Alec, help me out here, like the long
backhand blades, or
not the big like katanas, the like great katanas, great
short sword or something. Oh, I was all katanas.
Yeah,
I love my curvy great sword.
I was
the range is great on those. I mean,
yep.
Yeah.
What's the one I have? Not the Uchigatana. Maybe that is the one. No. There's like a normal non-legendary katana in the
Uchigatana, I think.
But it's really long. Do you know what I'm talking about? Whichever one that one I loved. That was my guy. And then I had the Hand of Millennia, and then I also picked up like one of the new katanas. And then there's also a Dragon Slayer katana. I was just a 2 katana guy, but I would swap out which katanas I was using all decks.
The Dragon Slayer katana was the only way I could beat Bale in this game.
I
Because
think I used that too.
my Bale. Oh man,
I missed that NPC. I only found out about that later.
Oh really?
I really missed like one of the most beloved parts of the DLC, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. It's when you go and fight. So there's like a big boss dragon in the DLC named Bale, and he's got this really cool arena. And when you summon this guy, Matt, what's the direct quote? It's Bale.
Like, curse you, Bale.
Curse you, Bale.
So good.
He screams this thing gutturally, and he
gives a killer
awesome.
performance. And I read an interview with the actor about the performance because I was curious. Like I voice direct over at Squanch, so I was curious like any insight into the FromSoft voice directing. And apparently like Miyazaki himself did oversee this guy was English, but the English dub, and like made the guy do it for like 5 or 6 hours and gave extensive notes with the like language barrier.
Oh wow.
And the guy like didn't understand what the game was, but he found out later. He only found out because like Curse You Bale went viral.
Yeah. I
That's
hereby
so funny.
vow you will rue this day. But it's like it's all in the performance. I think
Yes.
what works about it is that it's slow. He delivers it loud and slow. It's like it's so drawn out, you know. I was obsessed with that part, and yeah, it was cool that there was a boss in there that did make me change my my gear just for like a second, because I think whatever it was about that special move it had, it was working on Bale, and it finally plinked him down, and I was able
kind of homes in with that big air slice. Yeah.
Yes, and he's just a big enough of a target that
Yep.
it gets him, whereas other things don't, you know, just wouldn't touch him. Yeah, so I guess, you know, Abyssal Woods, I would definitely highlight that is like my favorite like area plus dungeon thing. What about you guys? What are some of your favorite areas of the DLC?
I really liked the Cerulean Coast just from an art design standpoint.
Yeah.
That was like, again, I'm gonna bring up the criticism and defend it, where a lot of people are like, there's not a lot of stuff in the map, but my thinking is like, okay, it reminds me of the end of Elden Ring's main campaign with like Mountaintops of Giants, where you started to not see as many nooks and crannies with rewarding like prizes for exploring. And the DLC has like 3 or 4 places like that. But I think what they get away with, and why I don't mind it at all, is they have a lot of different locales that they want to showcase, and they probably understand they can't make them all as dense as some of the other areas. But if they wanted every area to be as dense, they wouldn't be able to finish the DLC in the 2 years it took them. I'm coming at it from the game design standpoint, from seeing the producers yell about scope about every thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? They made the trade-off for they'll be a little emptier, but you get these rich, different art-directed landscapes that have a lot of lore attached to them, and now you get to see a little bit more about each area. And that whole thing linked to St. Trina, I think was one of my favorite little subquests and one of like my favorite spots to just hang out.
Yeah. I think you know, in the base game, there's this semi-famous part where, you know, you take that elevator all the way down to the you know, in way underground, way farther than you ever think you would travel in an elevator. And in this, it has a version of that, but it's like you hopping down and down into basically where you end up going and finding Saint Trina, all the way at the lowest point you've ever been in this game so far. And it's just real. I think it has a lot of impact. So I agree, Alec. I think the Cerulean Coast is beautiful and then horrible too, like disgusting as well.
Like the places it led me, and like the little story with Saint Trina and the NPC interaction were spoilers, but like she has you drink from her nectar and then you just die.
Yeah.
And then there's like a little twist to it if you keep doing it. Loved it. Like that's one of my favorite things that these games ever do, which is just like fucking with you in a way that you another game probably would never try. Like there's a secret NPC tree if you die 5 times by drinking someone's suicide nectar.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is just a little lore. I mean, that's your reward for it, is you get a little you get a little cutscene with dialogue. Yeah.
Some more details, and like again, most players would probably drink it, die once, and be like, okay, I'm not doing that again, because games train you to avoid things that cause death.
Yeah.
But you have to push through and try to, and I only found it by accident because I kept trying to equip different things and like see if there's a way to not die while doing it. And then I tried one too many times and it triggered another cutscene, which is insane.
It's so cool you found that on your own. See, I actually I read about that. That's how I ended up finding out you had to do it a few times. Matt, did you know about this?
I don't think I encountered this NPC. I must have missed them, because that sounds cool, but I would have for sure tried it once, died, and then not gone back.
Yeah.
Well, there's like items that like, I forgot which one. There was something that like relieves sleep or something, and I kept thinking, okay, well, if I'll try different combinations, there must be a trick to this, because it felt like such a weird dead end.
Yeah.
And the last thing I was going to do was just try to come back later. But I got,
it's a weird dead end for a character that was pretty legendary after the end of Elden Ring for being missing in the game.
So many hints and very little information. So I was very excited to even like be in front of this character.
Yeah. I really love, just off of this, how controversial the game is in some ways for like almost disappointing what you imagine a lot of the fans wanted. And I've heard a lot of this online where like, we thought Godwin was going to be in it, and we thought this would be the result of this. And like the fact that they zigged so hard away from certain stuff, I just love it as artistically. I just think it's a more fun way to go.
Either I'm a blind fanboy, or I loved it too. Yeah.
I think maybe there's some of that. I'm drinking St. Trina's Kool-Aid.
But you're right. I agree. I come from like the Venture Bros school of don't give the fans what they think they want.
Yes. Yeah. Because that's not really surprising. Had we fought Godwin at the end of this game, you could have guessed that months ago before it came out. But
that said, I think everyone knew Mikola would be the focus of this, so like that's not as big of a swerve to me. But like some of the stuff in here with like I did not expect to get any more lore on the outer gods, on like the whole Meta thing, Meta Mother of Fingers, that like
I loved that. That was actually one of my favorite boss fights to find, because like that was like a I don't know. I was looking at guides for some stuff, but like I stumbled into that kind of.
Oh, that's cool.
And was like, this fucking rocks, and this is so good. And then once you see her, it was so nasty to me.
One of my favorite monster designs they've done. She was just like, I was mad. I beat her so quick, and I was like, I wanted to look at her more.
She's really easy, but like not only does her design amazing, but the boss arena music is incredible for that whole section.
I loved that. I loved that whole I guess side quest too.
Yeah.
In that church was really, really fun. I loved that.
Oh yeah, and there's that there's obviously like the wizard guy who's on the throne in there, but then he has his fun dark assassin friend who's also in the room, and she's great, and like loved getting her armor and stuff and like throwing that on. She kind of looks like what I think it's probably intentional, but like what is it, Sauron from Lord of the Rings, the main with the weird black crown of just really cool. I think it's her weapon too. That's the katana, right?
Rings, but we know everything about Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing too. Like, because like I feel like I engaged with the text of this game sort of like poorly. I think because like I could read something about this game, having beaten it, and be like, "Huh, that's interesting." Like that's in this. Because there's just so much, and like a lot of the information that you can get about like the story is in like the description of items, and I'm just like, I'm not trained to read the descriptions of items unless it's like giving me a some sort of boon.
10% health every time I read a description.
Oh my god, no. So I'm the opposite. I want to read all of them. Yeah. And one of my biggest frustrations with Elden Ring and most Souls games, like all of them actually, is that I will pick up an item. Like, so when you read an item description, it usually gives you a lot of information about the lore. Even the most unexpected item will have like a whole bunch of shit. And then the context of where you got it or who you got it from is also important. And so often I will get an item in the middle of a fight, forget what it was called,
Yeah.
and then not even remember to look at it for later, or I just can't find it in the inventory. And they added this feature where I don't know if you had to turn it on manually, so you might not have had
Yes.
this on.
You did have to, and I think that's crazy. They made you turn it on
crazy.
manually.
Crazy. That said, that allowed me to I pieced together every bit of the lore of the DLC, which is I didn't get to do that during Elden Ring.
I
By the
can't
time
believe
I
you
finished
guessed
it,
Radon. That is,
I guess I
that's
knew who the boss
crazy
was
to
going to
me.
be. I put that together because well, that's from like some of the NPCs are talking. I can't remember their names, but there's a follower of Moog and a follower of Radon.
Uh-huh.
And Moog, the Moog guy, is talking about how like Moog's corpse was taken mysteriously. So I'm going like, okay, that's who the final boss is going to be something to do with that body being used. And I didn't know if it would just be him.
Mhm.
And then and the Radon side of it and how those NPCs were linked, I'm like, I think I get it. I think I pieced together. I only guessed that it would be Moog. I did not guess that it would be Radon's body or
Radon's soul in his
Yes.
body. Yeah,
Mhm.
that, which is like, again, it's like, I feel like it's almost like you have to. The way I engage with Elden Ring is like engaging with a religion I'm not used to, where I'm like have to like, okay, so this means that, and this is how souls work in this, and bodies don't matter.
There's like one of the best parts of this DLC to me, just from following the item descriptions. And I don't know if this would have hit as much if I hadn't been, but you end up finding America's hometown, this shaman village.
Yeah.
And it's like the theme, this beautiful like strings version of the theme kicks in, and it's very quiet. There's no enemies, and you find a couple very important items there. And like those were clarifying moments because if you're paying attention, like you're able to piece together this story about America's people and who the Horn Scent were and what they did to her people and why she took revenge and who Mesmer is. Like all of these things coalescing into this one secret area you could find. And that wouldn't have hit for me if I hadn't had this feature on and hadn't been like fastidiously checking every new item I get, even just like the consumable. It's just I was able to like figure out what the jars were and who was being shoved into them and what that meant for the lore.
Oh yeah, Matt, I'm so curious. What was your favorite area of the game? And it can be one we talked about already, but what was it?
I mean, it's. I have such a bad memory of like I'm looking at a map. Like I'm honestly looking at a map here. I really liked. Well, the hinterlands is such a small part of it.
It's so beautiful though, and it's so impactful. I think it's such a big moment.
I liked that area quite a bit, but also like I spent like it's gonna sound so silly, but the main the intro area.
Yeah, Gravesite Plain.
Gravesite Plain is so big and so massive, like, and you can just kind of look and you see these fucking massive guys walking around. I'm like, so you just immediately know you're fucked when you get there. It's like, it's so like that's so effective to me and so cool. And there's like I came back to an Everjail in that area because I kept getting worked, getting my ass kicked by this guy, and then it's just some nameless knight.
Yeah, he's just a normal guy. He's not a boss.
Yeah.
He's not a boss. He's just hard as hell. And I get him and I beat him. And I don't remember the reward being very satisfying and being like, I didn't feel like a waste of my time because like I think the best thing about these games is the reward is doing it. For me, like it's not so much like getting a new cool item or like an interesting piece of story, but like I get the satisfaction of that took me 30 tries and I've done it. Like that to me is all this game is. Like that's just like it's just like just learning that I can do something and doing it and feeling good and then trying to explain it to my non-gamer fiance.
I do the same thing too, where I try to explain it to Jackie, and I try to even do my best of like, well, I can't just tell her, like I can't just go in like nuts and be saying, I have to set it up to say like what it is and explain, and then like maybe she'll like love it. And it's like sometimes she's like, she really liked Bloodborne. I think aesthetically she just thought that was cool.
Probably the tightest, yeah.
Try
you should be lucky
I haven't tried
your
it.
partners don't want to play because imagine how hard it would be if you had one TV.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But Gravesite Plains, man, I felt like when you first step out into there, it just had me right away, and I really loved it. I know it's the intro area, but it was
great.
cool. It was great.
What about the I can't remember what it's called, but you know that like it's like, I mean, is it, there's like those ruins where you keep going up and up and up, and there's like you can see like down, but you can't go straight down. There's like cliffs and stuff, but like if you jump off,
is it Rao?
yeah, the base.
Yeah.
The base I thought was
Mhm.
also really, really cool because that to me felt the most like Tears of the Kingdom kind of.
Yeah.
Like it's just going up, like I don't know, like in the way that the main map is wide, that map is tall. And I was like, this is just amazing level design. This is so fucking cool.
The whole DLC was really vertical minded. I think that was
Yes.
like a real achievement because the map too. Part of the reason it was so hard to figure out how to get to different parts of the map and unlock them was because you couldn't tell which elevation you needed to be at to stumble into the new area.
Yeah,
which
you
is
go
fun,
straight
yeah.
at it and hit a wall or a cliff, and
Yeah, like the whole map this time around felt kind of like more of a throwback to a Dark Souls 1 overworld. Like, whereas in the main game, you kind of just knew there were different sectors, and you could get there by either walking or finding like one key, like up an elevator. But in this one, it really felt like you kind of had to treat the whole map as if it was one Metroidvania.
Yeah. I'm so curious to know what everybody's like sort of favorite boss fight or boss encounter was. I know we talked about a few, and Matt, it sounds like maybe the finger lady, Martyr,
Metter.
yeah, the finger.
Met her. I barely met her.
Martyr, I barely met her. Was that yours? Was that your favorite?
That was one of my favorites for sure. Yeah. Was it the Twin Knight Renala fight? Yeah. That was a great fight because I think I had the most trouble with that. Even though like not like of all of the bosses, but like that to me was like, okay, I have to engage with this. I have to like really like lock in, and that like a couple bosses before that, like they weren't like easy, but I was able to do them like pretty quickly. Yeah. And Renala was like my first roadblock, like where I was like really struggling and like had to like learn attack patterns, learn like it felt like I don't know, like learning a beautiful dance. It was
That's
quite
the best. That's when you feel like you are getting on the game's level and doing choreography as intended.
Yeah.
Yes. And like I was using my mimic tree, my mimic tier a lot. And the thing about the mimic tier that I obviously like is that it's just a second set of hands and, a way to draw aggro if necessary too. But the thing I'll say about it is that it takes him too long to get ready.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, so it's helpful.
That's the balance.
Yes, exactly. Like it's helpful when it is, but until it's helpful, it sucks.
Yeah.
Because it takes
your health away. So like
exactly.
in this DLC, I feel like this didn't happen a lot in the first one, but almost every boss has like an immediate attack that can kill you.
Oh yeah.
At half health. So like I had to like strategize, and I couldn't pull out my mimic tier until like halfway through the battle or something instead.
Oh, and the one that was riding the rhino,
Gaius.
Oh boy,
that was probably I think second to the final boss, the hardest boss for me because I just could not get him down.
It was for me that was definitely Mesmer, where it was almost like as soon as you enter the boss door, he's throwing his spear like right away at you, and like I had to do this balancing act of like, okay, I will dodge his first attack, I will throw the mimic tier, I have just enough time to dodge his next attack, and then I have to heal. And if any of those steps mess up, I'm dead. Like yeah. So that's cool though. I love the R'Lana boss fight. It's so like it also just like looks cool, like the flame and the moon sword or whatever. Just like I also love those moon attacks where it's like 4 moons hit the ground and you have to jump. Yep. Anytime they make you jump a lot in this DLC, and I like.
I was about to say the same exact thing. It's such a funny thing to like, but it's a new feature for Elden Ring, so let's use it.
Yeah, like it was a good reminder that you can jump. Actually.
Yeah.
I liked that, and then I actually, speaking of Mesmer though, the Mesmer fight I think is really really good. And I mean I don't think any of them are bad is the thing, but like the Mesmer fight, I remember having the same sort of like, I know I can do this. Like I know, because like it took a while to get to like even like halfway, but once you get halfway and you get like the second phase going of any of these bosses, you're sort of like, okay, this can be done. Like if I can get here, I can get here again. So it's just like sort of internal checkpoints for yourself. But there's a guy that you can summon in the
Hornsent,
he has good dialogue too.
Yeah,
I missed that one too. I found out there was a summon sign in his arena way later. I did not know.
And the dialogue is like it's as good as the guy who hates Bale performance, I think, but it's not getting the credit because I think maybe people are missing it. Yeah.
It's hard to hit a summon sign in the arena. Like that's it's hard for people to do. That one was great though. Like
that was my favorite fight.
Yeah, I loved the Mesmer fight was
Mesmer. Yeah.
That getting his summon in there was awesome. I loved it.
I felt bad.
Cool.
I beat him, and then if you don't use the summon, the Hornsent is there, like upset that he didn't get to do it. And I was like, I would have let you.
I could have used that.
Where you were? Yeah, exactly. Next time, call me. I don't know. Maybe find you.
Show up. I have to call you.
Yeah,
I'm fighting.
Doesn't make sense. I think also the guy that the Bale guy is inside the boss arena, and I read something too that's like the reason. Well, I don't know if this is the reason why they do it, but for anyone you summon outside the boss arenas, it makes their health, the boss's health, increase. But for those super hard bosses, if you can summon inside the boss arena, it doesn't affect them at all. So, that's sort of the trade-off. And I do feel like Mesmer and Bale are kind of extra hard in this game, at least from my experience. Mesmer was like 2 days of like kind of, okay, how do I get this guy?
That was the most fun I had fighting a boss on the DLC. That was like I would fight that one over and over again if I could.
Yeah,
they should just let you do that.
They do in Sekiro. There's a boss rush in Sekiro, or boss like attack, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Because I also like his character design too. Really, really cool character.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, he's cool, and I think his his little story is really interesting, and I don't think like at this point it's all been uncovered, like everything about him. I think there's still mysteries regarding Mesmer.
That scares me.
Yeah, the snake thing is the biggest mystery for me, because a lot of it is like he's just been left in charge, abandoned by America to continue oppressing the Hornsent. But then like the snake thing, does that relate to Rykard? Now I'm going down a rabbit hole.
There's people out there who think he's not really her son, that he was kidnapped as a baby from a different.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then there's like
cite your sources. Where's the evidence? I want.
That's the thing, is all the evidence comes from inside the game, just like looking at different. A statue has her holding this baby, inside his boss arena. But then, like, I guess, but he's such a snake guy, and like in Rykard's whole area, there's those the virgin what are they, receptacles or whatever, where they grab you. Yeah, those things are images of like women that open up and their wombs are snakes, and so they think that that's connected to Mesmer in some way, like that. His mom might be the Glowmide Queen is something people are throwing around.
The Glowmide Queen not getting addressed at all is one of the most insane things. That's like, what
do you know about this, Matt? The Glowmide Queen. We'll talk lore here in a second. I did just kind of want to like just lightly brush it because it's so much that we'll have a hard time.
Queen. I don't think I know.
Yeah,
we don't know anything. You know everything we know.
You hear about her a lot. You know that she's associated with certain enemies in certain areas of the game, and like the Godskin Apostles.
Like the Godskins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But she might be Marika. People think she might be Marika. People thought she might be Melina. Like there's like all kinds of, theories abound. I want to get into my favorite boss fight. I feel like this isn't going to be a popular choice. Promised Consort Radahn. That was my favorite boss fight. Here's the thing, and this is not a brag because I hit wall after wall on this. I got to him, and in an hour and a half, I finished Radon.
Wow, that is impressive.
I didn't struggle as much as I did on other bosses. I might have been over leveled. I might have just been my build or whatever, but I just thought his patterns were so pleasing to my brain. Whatever it was, I loved that one where he keeps flipping and like going over and over and over, and you keep having to roll to the right or the left. Man, I got a real big kick out of that. And I really liked the whole, like, if Mikola captures you twice, he steals your heart.
So funny.
Yeah.
The special game over screen for that really got me.
Yeah. It was just a really, I just really had a great time with that. And yeah, I just
that
thought
was the most Kingdom Hearts the game got.
Yes. So true. Yeah, and I thought the arena was cool, and I thought what Mikola was doing there was so interesting and dark. Mm-hmm. And I also loved that Mikola. I think Mikola's dialogue. I don't know it verbatim, but it was something along the lines of like, "Hey, if you have a better idea, go for it."
For real, and I love the story there, where it's kind of like I think most players are probably thinking, "I don't know, he might be the best option here," but you're also like, "But he's as bad as the rest, so then what hope do we have?"
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I do like that the DLC kind of does like. You are doing all of this, and then you get to the end of it, and it's sort of like maybe you're bad. Actually, like this is like it's like that kind of rocks. And actually, I said earlier that I don't really engage in the lore.
Uh-oh.
There was something in this that I loved. And was excited to learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
The origin of the jars.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
That's like pretty like. You don't have to dig that deep for it. So that's kind of my stuff.
Yeah.
It's surface level, but I loved it. I loved it so much. Because then the little creepy jar guys running around, and then they explode, and there's just like a guy, like a like nasty
little glob
bellied guy
flesh monster. Yeah.
Nasty.
I love that too because in the base game, we know what the jars are. We've known since then like that they're like dead people in there, but they were presented as so cute and lovable. Like Alexander is like a hero from like the base game, but then I feel like the DLC does kind of flip the jars on its head and it makes it more vile and kind
there
of
might be multiple types of jars because I feel like there's another part of the lore that's like Alexander is one where it was all heroes shoved into the jar, like all remains of like it was almost like a warrior ritual. Mm-hmm. As opposed to what we're seeing in the DLC. So I don't know how much crossover there even is between like which jars and if
different
it's
jars,
like a DLC special type of jar.
Yeah, could be different jars. Yeah, I think the jar stuff is really dark and really interesting. That like, the fusing of the bodies and all of that stuff. Like, thematically, everything in this game. A lot of things in this game are so tight and tightly knit, and there's like usually pairs, like good and bad versions of things, and
tight isn't cool too.
Tight also isn't cool. Yeah. Getting kind of just like brushing up against the lore here for a bit. Like I want to say this about the Elden Ring lore. Like officially, like I cannot keep it all in my head, and I think that that's really impressive. Because for all the other FromSoft games, like. I get so into the lore and I feel like I do exhaust it where I'm like, okay, I pretty much understand everything. And this is a game where I'm like, I'm not sure on a lot of stuff or I'll forget. Like
there's always like a faction or a location that you're forgetting. Like you're like, right, I forgot all about the deathbed people.
Yeah, or the dragons. That's what I'll usually forget about. Is like, oh, the dragons, right? Like, what did they do, and how do they interact with everything? Like on this map, there's a enormous dragon that takes up like a fourth of the map.
Yeah.
And it has huge lore implications and lore significance. Was there anything from this game that you guys took that you really just liked the storytelling of it?
The bit with Matter where you find the mother of fingers, where like presumably I think the game explicitly tells you this is the source of all of the fingers in the game. So like the roots, those tree-like gnarled roots that are controlling everybody. You've been taught that they're influenced from the outer gods trying to somehow, for whatever reason we don't know, manipulate the people of this realm. Mm-hmm. And then you find out in this game that the mother of all of them has lost contact with the outer gods and has not had orders for God knows how long, for like an
Yeah.
unthinkable amount of time. So you're being influenced by outer gods who aren't even involved anymore. It's like it's like finding out it's like finding out God is real, but he's been dead for a long time and someone's just been guessing. Like, I don't know, I
Yeah.
guess he wants us to keep doing this.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
it's like, I
finding
feel-
out you're
yeah.
Desmond in the hatch and you're just putting numbers into a computer for no reason.
Wow,
really.
Lost
Yeah.
really was so ahead of its time.
Yeah. That's like it's a very potent metaphor, I think, for religion in general, right? Like the whole that whole finger thing. And also I think there's something in there about how she's also like lost her mind. Like she's like,
yeah, she's like abandoned and going crazy. Yeah.
yeah. Ooh, dark and cool. Like just
Yeah.
I'm
really
gonna have
cool.
to just watch one of those Vati videos and just really just sink
soak
my
it
teeth
in.
into the
Yeah.
lore. Because I would like to know. I would
Yeah.
like to like be able to say, oh, I think this is because of this or whatever. But there's just I have this sort of like that I think you should leave driving sketch, sort of just like I don't know what any of this shit is and I'm fucking scared.
Yeah, but like surface then, Matt. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Was there like a sequence that we mentioned the fingers, but was there anything else in there where you were like, I really like? Oh, you said the jars. I guess you kind of talked about the
I
jars.
like
I don't
the
know if there's
jars.
anything else you.
But I do, I liked what Mikola was up to. That seemed pretty interesting to me. Like because you just hear the name so much in the base game, and then to get to like get a little bit of that like at the end there was satisfying to me. I feel like I was reading that some people were not too into that or whatever, but I don't know.
I loved it. It's
I
like
don't know
meeting a
what people
celebrity.
could want.
You heard about
Yeah.
Nicola, now you get to fight him
Yeah.
Yeah.
on his cousin's body or whatever. His
Yeah.
brother's big.
That's pretty
hunky-
cool.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing about him dumping parts of himself off, like as he's making this journey, is
A
like
great
Yeah.
conceit. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's like one of those things that doesn't make like physiological sense necessarily, but it like makes this there's a greater theme at play here. There's a greater
Yeah.
message being given
The
to
whole
you.
thing, the whole DLC feels very like I think it's really on top of itself. Where like this message of everything America did as sort of like a means to get revenge and do things the right way and rule without corruption, and then her inevitable corruption, and how Mikola is clearly destined for the exact same path. Like he's coming at this from the angle of I can do this right, I can rule with kindness, but you're already seeing every sacrifice and compromise he had to make along the way.
Yeah,
And how it's going to doom him the exact same way America was doomed.
yeah,
And your kind of power, like all you can do as an agent in the Elden Ring universe is just slay these gods.
yeah.
Because otherwise they'll run rampant. Like it's such a funny. It's your role in the story is always very just. Oh, sorry, stumbled in here. I'm gonna go ahead and just.
Yeah, good or bad, you gotta go.
Something that actually when I got to this part of the game did actively make me feel bad was when I had to fight my friends in that arena.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, that was really effective. Yeah.
I was like, because you spend all this time talking to these people and you're all going toward you're all following Mesmer's light or whatever those things are, right? And like you meet a couple different NPCs along the way and you can summon them in other fights. And then you get to a point where they're like the tables turn and you have to fight each other and it fucking sucks. It feels so bad. And it's a really effective moment. I only had one guy on my side.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
You gotta do more quests. You gotta go down to Saint Trina's cave.
I had like
Yeah.
I'd actually heard that could be a pretty tricky fight in and of itself because there's so many people coming at you, and luckily I think I had like accidentally offed a few of them before coming there. Like unfortunately the big guy who sells you stuff, I had already made him mad because I killed one of those things that I wasn't supposed to kill, and he invaded me earlier in the game. So really it was Lady Leda, I think is her name, and Dryleaf Dane. Those were the two I had to.
It's funny, if you do all the quests, it gets harder. Like
Yeah.
you got a couple more people helping you, but then it's that part's really great thematically too, because you have this implication that Mikkola's charm was what was uniting all of them. And then as he
When it
gives up
breaks.
that part of himself and his rune breaks, they all start to turn on each other. So it's almost like another thing of like, he was kind of right. He could have done some good, but at what cost? They weren't themselves. But is this any better? Maybe they were happier not being themselves.
I thought that was such a cool and effective part, when that thing shatters and your whole game freaks out for a second. It's like it sends you a clear message, something big has happened.
Funny.
and then when you talk to what feels like a merry band of warriors, and they start to like lose it. They're like, now I'm suspicious of my friends. They're all kind of turning on each other and stuff. It just starts to feel so eerie, and I just like tonally, that's like the best. That's like one of the best flavors of something. It's also, I feel like, rarely done or able to be done in fiction. I feel like in a video game, it's actually a lot easier to kind of get that across. Like it's harder to convey that in, like, I think, another medium. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm always just really enthralled when hey, this is a kind of a thing that it really like lends itself to a video game. Like, being
the active experience of a story versus the passive experience of watching a story. Like I get you that stuff. That's why I mean, we all love video games, of course, but like, I think there's so many good stories that you can't really tell in a way other than a video game. Like, I don't know. I know people have their problems with The Last of Us 2, but the story of The Last of Us 2 for me really works because it's a video game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
there's definitely like an added layer of like, I mean, if I'm watching Mission Impossible and all of Tom Cruise's buddies are helping him get stuff done, I'm like, those are my friends. If those are Tom's friends, those are my friends. And then if I'm playing a game, the added thing is I'm actually helping these people. I am Tom. They're my friends. They're not my friends because they're Tom's friends.
Yeah. Although when I watch Mission Impossible, I am thinking, if I was one of his friends, I would be helping too. Like, I would also help.
Yeah,
right,
and I'm usually cheering so loud. I'm thinking I am helping that way with Tom. This is a small thing.
I'm a friend of Tom.
Yeah, this is like a small lore thing. Because again, like you could, like, the whole books can be written on any one of these characters, but it's like finding the braid in the hinterland, like Marika's braid
in the tree.
Oh yeah,
in the tree. So it's a small thing that I just was like, oh, you didn't have to do that. Like, that's so cool. Like, the idea that the whole game she's only had one braid, but some statues of her have shown her with two, and I never noticed. Like,
and the item doesn't say it's Marika's braid. It just kind of, you put it together yourself. Like, that's, again, very deft. It's not like, it's very easy for the game to be like, Marika's left braid.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And here's what it means. Like, I think a lesser game would do that. But
exactly,
this kind of let you, like, what does this mean? And why would she cut that off? And, like, how does this work in the balance of things? And, like, it just your mind kind of goes nuts, and it's in a good way, So I guess as we kind of wrap up, the question I love to ask that I don't know if anyone likes to hear the answer to, but I certainly do, is like, FromSoft is like a really great developer. I'm really excited to see whatever they're going to do next. What would be a satisfying follow-up to something like this? Because, Elden Ring is this huge thing, and then Shadow of the Erdtree is this very, in my opinion, very satisfying follow-up to that. What next? Where do you go from here? I mean, in my opinion, I think that, like, getting away from the Dark Souls stuff might be a smart thing. I don't know, though. What do you guys think, Alec? Where do you want to see them go next?
I mean, I really liked, if they're going to do anything more Souls-like immediately after this, which I think they probably need to take a break from. Although at the same time, they have a team that's primed for it. What do you do when they should strike while the iron's still hot?
They're at the top of their game.
They're at the top of their game.
They're the best at making these. Yeah.
I truly do mean, like, I think it probably is a bad business decision to not keep making games like this. Yeah. However, if they do, I think Sekiro, more like that, where it's kind of a bigger swing. It's still recognizably a Souls-like, but so much of the gameplay and what they're asking you to do is tweaked. There's no armor. You have one weapon in the entire run of Sekiro, and it's much more story focused, like a swing in that direction where it still feels like it has the trappings of a Souls-like, but they're trying something fresh.
Yeah, and what I like so much about Sekiro and why I think it stands out so much outside of gameplay is like aesthetics. Like the aesthetics of Sekiro are just so much different than like the dark fantasy stuff that we see in the Souls games or Demon Souls or and I do think that's why people connect with Bloodborne so much is they just like love like not beyond everything else. It's like I love being in this place. It's like a new kind of cool fresh place, and Elden Ring is obviously way different than Dark Souls in a lot of ways, but it's like something not that kind of traditional dark fantasy would be really cool. Matt, what do you think?
Elden Ring felt like a finale. Oh, that's all.
Yeah.
It felt like a victory lap. Yeah,
I agree. And there's obviously so much perfecting ideas they started so long ago. Like you see Demon Soul stuff in here, you see Dark Souls 1 stuff in here, you see Bloodborne, so much Bloodborne crap in here.
Winter Lanterns were Bloodborne, yeah.
I think the same name, right? Aren't they called Winter Lanterns in both games?
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. Matt, have you played Bloodborne?
I have not, but I know that I would love it just based on what I've heard about it. Like it seems like it's like my zone. Maybe I should try it next. There's like you said at the top, there's nothing. I mean, I guess the next game I'm looking forward to is the Zelda game. But the otherwise nothing too chunky rest of the year for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But for me, I mean, didn't Miyazaki say that he like the Elden Ring isn't even his like full like he's basically not at full power. He's like that's not the most I haven't made the exact fantasy game that I want yet. So he's insane. He's a fucking maniac, this guy, and I love that. But like, so I suspect we will get another one of those from him at some point. But I got Armored Core 6 and was really, really loving it. Was like super into it.
Ooh, that was great.
Yeah.
But haven't finished it, but would like to get back to that at some point. I'd say just combine them. Just get us an Armored Core Souls-like.
Where you're fighting dragons and shit.
Yeah, why not?
Be careful because this could end up being a steampunk project.
Oh, never mind. I don't want that. Keep the goggles out of it.
Yeah. Take that clock out of your hat, sir.
Put it where it belongs, on the wall or on your wrist.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool. I feel like I'm with Matt, like another sci-fi kind of thing would be and maybe it is more like a grounded like more human experience, like instead of like mechs you're like in a sci-fi space somehow doing stuff. I don't know.
That takes place in Midwest in Iowa.
Oh man, if they did like the American Midwest, that would be, and like this is the darkest version of that. I mean, that would be something.
It would be interesting to see if they could do something where somebody has a good time. Like there's
oh my god, yeah.
One thing goes right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, fellas, thanks so much for joining me on this episode. I mean, what an amazing time! What an amazing game! It was great to get you guys together and talk about this thing. I was thrilled to do it. So yeah,
I had a blast.
Appreciate y'all. Let's go ahead and plug ourselves on out of here. Alec Robbins, where can people find you?
I've already all right, fine.
Plug again. You got to.
We'll do the unorthodox thing and plug at the end.
Psycho shit. If you ask me.
Yeah, I've never done this before, but okay. At Alec Robbins on Twitter and whatever. Instagram, it's different because someone else stole my title. It was like a 16-year-old kid who stopped using it, and I can't get everyone. So Alec S. Robbins on Instagram. And I got a book coming out called Crime Hot. You can pre-order it now. It comes out in December, and you can buy Mr. Boop or just read it online for free.
Absolutely. Matt Apodaca, where can people find you?
I'm just gonna say, if you've enjoyed reading Mr. Boop for free online, buy one of the damn books. You'll be happy to have it when the internet goes down and you can't read it anymore.
Oh yeah,
that will happen.
mm-hmm.
I promise.
It will happen. You can follow me on Instagram at Matt Apodaca. I post all my shit there. And you can listen to Get Played on Mondays, wherever you get your podcasts. It's me, Nick Weiger, and Heather Ann Campbell talking about video games. And we just did an episode about Chrono Trigger, which is not something we typically do. We talk about a great, beautiful game at length, but we did do that, and it was a lot of fun. So check that out.
That's amazing. Definitely check that out. You can also, you can listen to my show, Video Games, a Comedy Show, anywhere podcasts can be found if you don't already. Thank you for subscribing to the Patreon. If you are listening to this on a free feed, though, patreon.com/super NPC Radio ain't, slouch. There's a lot of good content going on over there. We're doing Games Club stuff. We just, we're kind of rounding the corner on our Hollow Knight Games Club, which has been a lot of fun. Boy, I'll tell you, I was having to play Hollow Knight for the show, and I was playing Shadow of the Erdtree kind of side by side, and I was definitely thrilled to play a less punishing game after those two had ended.
Wow.
Very fun games though, both of them. We do have our if you're listening to this as it's been released, we do have our next Games Club nominees up, and you can vote on what we will be playing next over there on the Patreon. The theme was baby games. The nominees are Bug Snacks, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Mario and Luigi: Partners in Time, Banjo-Kazooie, Spyro the Dragon, and of course, the biggest baby game of them all, Death Stranding, Director's Cut. Okay, so you can go over there, vote on which baby game you want to see us play next. We'll be back next month with another Call Me By Your Game co-op. Thank you so much. Oh, Call Me By Your Game, the podcast, Connor McCabe. At Connor_McCabe on Twitter. Yes, go check out his stuff if you don't already. Okay, love you. Goodbye.